We understand the pain point of the farmer, we design the machine, and we keep it affordable. We started when we were 23. I was 23 and the younger one, Shubham, was 22. So with the first thought came into the mind, we want to do something in rural India where there is less of clutterness, I can say. There are less of competition and where we can give our best. There is only one thing which is lagging right now in particular this sector is minimum order quantities. That's it. Agree is a cyclic nature of business. Peaks come and peak go. Season आएगा season जाएगा, but when you have that plant you need to operate it year around at least on base so that you do not make a loss.
As a young company, this is of course a space that there are large incumbents, right? Mahindra, Escorts, etc. How do you view competition?
With due respect, I can say that we are not afraid of these big players. I'll tell you the reason.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show, Manufacturing Mindset. I'm glad to introduce to you Mr. Rohit Bajaj, who's the co-founder and CEO of Balwaan, to our show today. Welcome, Rohit, to the show.
Hi, Sarvesh. Thank you for hosting a show which I have already seen some videos. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Rohit, before we start the show, I want to give a quick message to the audience to kindly subscribe to our channel so that we can help, spread the word. And Rohit, let's get started. I would love to hear about your initial journey as a founder. You, of course, started this company with your brother Shubham. Agritech, the space in which you play in wasn't as hot a sector as, of course, it is now. What made you take up that challenge of transforming lives of farmers?
So, just to tell the audience, we started very young. We started when we were 23. I was 23 and the younger one, Shubham, was 22. So the initial thought, what came into our mind was कि खुद खुद कुछ खुद का करना है. So that was the initial thought which we started. Sitting on a tea stall, thirty, we call it in our language. हम बैठे discuss कर रहे थे. So we belong from a Banya family. So we don't want to sit on a galla, which is a tradition in our culture. So what the thought was कि rather going there, we should try, our work, luck, whatever we call it. Can we start our own something on our own? So that was the initial thought. Whatever savings we had, or I can say whatever money we can jugadify. So we started this. We had a 1 lakh rupee sum of 1 lakh rupee, and the idea to work on the own. So that was the initial thought. Then what the first thing we did, we rented an office, a very tiny small office of 2,500 a month kind of rent, and we created a first team of 4 5 people who likewise they were the friends of Shubham. So we together 5 6 people, specifically 5 people, we together started the journey where we had no clue what to do. क्या करना है नहीं पता था, but we had that thought we need to do something on our own. But one thing was very clear in our mind that we want to choose agri as a sector or rural business we want to do. Reason behind this was that was a time in 2016 we initiated this company. So that was the time when I can say that was the time when there are many startups coming up, like e-commerce startup was on boom, or you can say their fintech was on boom. So but that time there was no agri as a sector. So with the first thought came into the mind, we want to do something in rural India where there is less of clutterness, I can say. There are less of competition and where we can give our best. So that is how we initially started in 2016. We went to farms, we talked to farmers, and we got this thing कि there is a acute problem of mismatch of farm mechanization and the pocket of a farmer. वो 10 लाख का ट्रैक्टर नहीं अफोर्ड कर पा रहा है. तो अल्टीमेटली दैट वाज द टाइम व्हेन आइडिया वाज बोर्न कि छोटे किसानों के लिए छोटी मशीनरी, एंड दैट्स द simplest one liner. We got an idea, we started working, we're figuring out the designs, we're figuring out the machines, and then cut to stage one. Stage now we have sold more than 1 lakh equipment and selling every year more than 1 lakh equipment, and that is a long journey in a short story, I can say.
Super. So the one point that stood out for me was the initial capital that you mentioned. And there was this huge debate, if you recall, some time back, where on a podcast someone had mentioned that, okay, 1 crore or a few crores probably is not okay. You need a larger sum of money. Of course, the person interviewed was a big businessman. But your point is basically that it doesn't matter how much capital, even with a small capital, ultimately you can start.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as you grow, the business grows like it has in your case.
Yeah, there is never a case ki it depends on the stage where you are starting a business. We were very young. It was a learning time. We do not require speed. Money gives speed. We require direction. So ultimately, the direction comes with a agility, or I can say, the direction comes with bootstrapping initially. That discipline. So if there is a, I'll I'll divide into two parts. If it's your first startup, you should start at bootstrap at least for 3 to 4 years. What I believe is. If you are in a second or a third startup, or now you're a serial entrepreneur for that matter, that time you can have a larger money, because the whole point is not to waste the money. So that is what I think.
So super, and this is a topic we'll talk about in more detail.
Yeah.
But before we go there, explain to everyone what Balwan does so people have the context.
So as I said in the intro itself, small machines for small farmers. So what we do, we understand the pain point of the farmer, we design the machine, and we keep it affordable. So ultimately, in one liner, I can say there is a small machine for small farmers. Our USP is we create accessibility and awareness around it, and that is what Balwan do.
How is it different from a tractor that most people know about today?
देखो ट्रैक्टर in a simplest say, I can say कि tractor and these machinery, it's like car and bike. Tractor are the car of farm agriculture, and these are the bikes. Both are the means of transport, but the use case is different. So both are the machinery which is used as farming, but the use case is different. 83% of the 83 for that matter 85% of the farmers are small and marginal, and the definition of small and marginal is they have holding less than 1.5 hectare. So 1.5 hectare ka farmer who have a earning of 3 to 4 lakh a year, maximum earning, I can say that way, cannot afford a tractor. So that is where we do a bike as a segment, and we think this bike basically means a smaller HP machinery with a lower pocket value, and that is where we position ourselves. So tractors are the cars to this machinery, this industry, and we operate in a bike of this industry.
So you're basically building the next Bajaj Auto for the agri industry, if I were to put a comparison.
Yeah, 110%. This is what the best comparison is. So mechanization is born to happen, Sarvesh. That is for sure. Mechanization hoga hi hoga. No debate, no doubt on that. It's all about who can make a discipline where good company who can be in top 1 to 3 brands like Bajaj, TVS, or Honda, Hero, that way.
Of course. There's a lot we want to talk about from a manufacturing and from an entrepreneurship point of view. But given the area in which you're addressing, this is a sector that addresses millions of farmers of life, right? And
Yeah.
you've thus far, like you mentioned, there are hundreds of thousands that you are sort of reaching out to. Give us that one or two memorable moment that have stood out in your journey, in your interactions when they've used your product and the kind of change that has happened, there.
So, no, for impact, it is a classic industry. Every machine we sell creates an impact at ground level. मतलब I'll share you some videos or pictures where whenever we sell any machine, farmer पहले उसको तिलक करेगा, they make that स्वास्थ्य को माला पहनाएगा, and then they started using it. So of course it's an income generation tool for him. But as you specifically asked, there is one or two instances I can brief. There are multiple, as I said. So one is I was in a field visit at Himachal Pradesh. So there is survey लेने जाते हैं आप basically. तो you have that habit to ask the negative questions because farmer knew कि कोई company से आया तो they'll give you a positive one. तो I asked randomly, मैं नेगेटिव सवाल कर रहा था कि मशीन आपके काम तो नहीं आती होगी, मशीन बहुत पेट्रोल पीती होगी, डीलर सर्विस नहीं देता होगा, एंड इवेंचुअली ही वाज अल्टीमेटली फेड अप ऑफ माय क्वेश्चंस. और वो बोलता है सर मेरे लिए मशीन नहीं है, ये एटीएम मशीन है. जिस दिन से मैंने खरीदा है ना इसको, उस दिन से मैंने किराए पे भी चलाया, खुद का भी काटा, और लगभग मेरी इनकम मतलब जितना कमाता था उससे 2 गुना 3 गुना ज्यादा ही कमाता हूँ. एंड दैट वाज अ सिंपल मशीन ऑफ ब्रश कटर He used to cut his crops and some grasses for the cattle. So the word which stuck in my mind was ATM machine. This is not a machine to me, it's a ATM machine to me. So that moment, ये हमारी sales pitch में आ गया है अब ना. Everywhere we say this regularly. This is not the machine to you, it's a ATM machine. It can save you money. It can give opportunity for you to create more money. So that was, I think, I remember vividly. Incident. It's 3 4 years back. And one more, if I wanted to say, it's not from the field, but this is something what I remember as you asked. Scene. There is one gentleman in our service team, right? He's talking to farmers every day for servicing and the issues that he create. He got a award of um, um, the best employee of the month in service as a category. That time he stood and said a one or two liner. He said, "Ki I came here to be the peon, but somehow they give me opportunity to be in a service team." And that was moment I got chills. Matlab, that is what, as an institution, we might have created an impact. But you asked as a farmer is a multiple story. So these two stories I remember among all those, so which I told you.
Thank you for sharing that. Both are sort of quite inspiring and tells about the work that you're doing on the ground. Let's shift gears and talk about the manufacturing sort of landscape, right? And you have a unique vantage point where you see both what's happening in India and sort of in China. And when you look at our Indian manufacturing ecosystem, what are you seeing as both advantages that we have, as a country, and what do you think are the challenges that one is encountering on the ground?
I understand. So it is a little tricky that way. My answers, some people might don't like, but I'll tell you the advantage or the disadvantages what we face while importing or while doing manufacturing in India. So they go, why we all belong to this country. Of course, our heart is into this country. But one thing is for sure, we do not have that speed and consistency. We are as a brand, देखो, we as a brand, our whole duty is what? Our duty is not to, of course, the nation is everyone's duty, but the primary duty of a promoter is to service customer with best price and best quality, right? So that is what the difference which we can make. We cannot. Well, I do not have that power. I can change holistically the India or the world. So what I do, I can do something for my customers. I give them the best product with the best price, and that is where, as I said, people will not like, but it will take a decade to beat the China as far as my experience says in this category. However, things are changing. I cannot say things are not changing. Things are changing, but it is little difficult because of the mindset of the people which we have that josh, right? एक जोश है बनाएंगे इंडिया में करेंगे. But I have taken codes both from Indian manufacturing, both from Chinese manufacturing or any other country. We give them designs, we give them our target price point, or we give them our designs and we give them our use cases. By end of the day or maybe by the second day they give us the code. In India थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, हो जाएगा, कर लेंगे, ओवर कमिटमेंट्स. So that is where I think there is a issue of a mindset which as a challenge I really faced when we start our supply chain from India. It will take a decade. With that decade, I think a lot and lot of hard work, you know, plus that consistency, plus that dedication, then I can say a decade because they have taken a leap. It's not just India which is facing the challenges from China, it's all over the world. So they have created some good things which we need to just copy and paste. But still we are lagging things. I have seen डिस्कशंस व्हाट वी डू. अपने मॉर्निंग पे चाय पे मे बी फ्रेंड्स के साथ वी डिस्कस इंडिया, मे बी वी डिस्कस बीजेपी कांग्रेस, वी डिस्कस हिंदू मुस्लिम. आई डोंट नो व्हाट पीपल डिस्कस, वट एवर देयर चॉइस इज. What they discuss is die casting, forecasting, sales, MOQs, market potential market, new product development. That is what they discuss. So आप समझ रहे हो, mindset is what I real that is a real challenge. But nevertheless, we are the one who have put it near about 8 to 10 crore corpus from our recent fundraise to develop manufacturing in India, because everyone asks me the same question. But I always say it's a mindset. It will change, but it will take a lot and lot of hard work. So the only challenge I see is a mindset. Nothing is impossible. The machines which we make are simply mechanical plus little bit of engineering, lot of testing. So that is not ऐसा कुछ नहीं है जो नहीं बन सकता है. But if it's a MOQ, we are waiting for the minimum order quantity which we have, then we can make subject to the mindset if people can change it and the hard work, of course. So that is my take. Challenge is mindset, nothing else. I think everything can be manufactured in India.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग आई थिंक जैसे अब जो हम लोग धंधा माइंडसेट बोलते हैं वो धंधा माइंडसेट है हमारा लेकिन वहाँ पे काफी व्हाट यू वुड से लैक्स हो जाते हैं हम इन टर्म्स ऑफ एग्जीक्यूशन
Oh,
उतना डिसिप्लिन तरीके से नहीं करते हैं विच
yeah, it's a over
हाँ
optimism. Over optimism हो जाएगा, कर लेंगे, देख लेंगे.
हाँ हाँ
So
हाँ
these are the words which I
हम्म
generally listen to.
हम्म
But actual में the working is, it's a jugaad mindset we need to change. It's a bane and boon both at the same time, right? Jugaad mindset is good, but professionalism is what the world needs. कि you require mass production, you require thinking through all day around that product. So that is what the
So,
change
and we
is.
saw recently also, right? Like I live in Maharashtra, so there was this Maharashtra government tender, which was given out to a company, listed company for EVs, and basically they could not deliver, and contract was cancelled, right? So it's a shame. I mean, given that you took the contract and it's a public company and you're not able to sort of deliver. So part of it is
I,
that कि हाँ ठीक है ऑर्डर ले लेंगे देख लेंगे फिर क्या होता है
हाँ, yes,
and
ये
then
देख लेंगे वर्ड ना, देख लेंगे, एक बार ऑर्डर ले लेते हैं, देख लेंगे क्या होगा. And that is where things change. Plus,
mm.
I also ask you one reverse question just came into my mind. So you, I don't know, I just to tell the audience, Sarvesh also invested to our company, right? So as an investor, what I say you, I can take a hit on a gross margin of 5 to 7% and make a supply chain in India. What you will say instant? What you will see the numbers? एक साल के अंदर क्या बोलोगे आप? एक साल में अगर ग्रॉस मार्जिन हमारा कम आता है and we say we are making supply chain in India. Globally और broadly सुनने में अच्छा लगेगा, but immediately SaaS raises question around the mindset of investors as well कि क्यों कम हो रहा है gross margin, क्या दिक्कत हो रही है. So there are many things which need to be sorted out, not only one thing for this holistically mindset to change to create a manufacturing hub in India. So you understand where I'm coming through, कि there
No,
are
I agree.
multiple
But to your
challenges.
question, I'll answer you that question also, right? If I were you, I would actually figure out that, boss, eventually I have to do this, right?
Yes.
So how do I keep doing it? So that, because at the same time you will get some benefit of margin because you're increasing sale. And yes, because you're sourcing from India, so that might reduce the margin. Net, you'll still be at the same level. And gradually, if you can do that, so it's not something you have to solve in 1 year or 1 month. Even if you can solve it over 2, 3, 4 years, you're much better off than otherwise, right? So,
Theoretically, yes, but they are
hmm,
then that is not always what happened in the case. Sometimes we take a decision, then some can go bad as well, right? So this is a risk which we as
hmm,
an entrepreneur are always willing to take, but
yeah,
sometimes need to have a backstep. Ki it's it's a dilemma. It is
yeah, yeah, of course.
something. So slowly and steadily we will, but yeah.
No, no, makes sense. And let's talk about the sector in particular, right? The agriculture equipment that you are in. What are some of the key, to the point that you made around, investing in R&D, manufacturing, etc. What are some of the advancements that are happening in that space over there that will increase both the quality, affordability, etc. in this particular space that you're operating in? What's happening there?
People, they are everyone, as I said, everyone have understood mechanization is bound to happen. People are investing in this sector and they are investing in manufacturing. The capital is now being more patient as compared to the earlier capitals. And we as a company are raising saying that we will go into manufacturing. So the likely like mindset of people who are coming will come next, maybe next phase or the one which we are with. So they are inclined with our option. One thing. So that is for sure. There is no hiccups from the investor mindset to start a manufacturing people. And you also for that matter, you are making a podcast on manufacturing. So we all understand that is going to be a boom in India. Number one. Number two, the technological advancements, I can say there is only one thing which is lagging right now is in particular this sector is minimum order quantities. That's it. There is nothing which we cannot manufacture, but we, agri is full of cyclic nature of it is a cyclic nature of business. Peaks come and peak go. Season आएगा, season जाएगा. But when you have that plant, you need to operate it year around at least on base so that you do not make a loss. What is happening in China or other manufacturing hubs is they are the center of business. So they get demand from all over the world. Indian agriculture is monsoon based. Latin America is different. Africa is different. So if you have that door open, if you have that option, you can export and you can reduce this seasonality as a curve. That time it makes sense. So one thing simultaneously, if we are thinking around manufacturing in this sector, one is of course, catering our internal demand, but external demand we need to cater as per the need of this manufacturing because cyclic nature of business आपको reduce करना पड़ेगा. Otherwise, it's a issue. So I'll come back to the question. You said advancements. There is no technology. We have it. We need to beat the seasonality. Seasonality का जो hiccup है उसको beat करना पड़ेगा while opening the export market. Plus we require little MOQ. That's it. That's all we require for now.
Got it. So you're saying product in that sense is appropriate with the kind of demand there is and what needs to be done on the ground. That by itself is quite sufficient. What needs to happen is more on the business side. Things needs to be solved for, especially for people who are sort of into the manufacturing side of it.
Yes, that's the main
Hmm.
problem. Otherwise, everything is sort of.
Interesting. And as a young company, this is of course a space that there are large incumbents, right? Mahindra, Escorts, etc. Sona, many others, right? How do you view competition and how do you think about tackling them in the space that you're operating in? They have large balance sheets, large distribution.
Yeah, matlab, with due respect, I can say that we are not afraid of these big players. I'll tell you the reason. Reason is they might have that sword with them of fund or tech or R&D budgets or engineers, but they are slow. We have, we might have a smaller knife, but we are fast. We are into the same direction of small machines. What मतलब we sleep, we breathe, we do a breakfast, lunch, dinner, all about small farm mechanization. So that is where I can say it is a difference, and that is our right to win. They take long time to think around it, and ultimately, small farm machinery is something that is secondary to them, where we think it is a primary bread and butter for us. So there is a prime difference. They might have bigger swords, as I said, but with our speed and you know dedication to this sector, I think there is nothing to fear, and the sector is growing in itself. So it is what we are not afraid, as a due respect, as I said, with those big guys, at least for now. Though.
No, no, super. And there are lots of people like me who are rooting to see you succeed in this space. Let's talk about the audience as well, in which you're, sort of catering to, right? The rural audience. I mean, not me, but I'm sure many people would think that even is the rural audience even offline online, right? Although now increasingly we see at least on the content side, people are consuming content. But yours is, of course, one is the content part of it, but there's a commerce part of it as well, right? Are sort of farmers or in the rurals, how much is online commerce happening there? So talk about that. Talk about what is the behavior of the farmers, what are the platforms where they are online, what is the online purchase behavior, payment delivery, the whole ecosystem there.
Yeah. So it might sound odd to ears that farmers are buying online, but they are buying online. Because there is a customer journey altogether. First is awareness, then they see around comparison, then they make a purchase decision, then they do the after sale. So awareness is something which is all happening online, right? You know there are 12 crore farmer families for that matter. I can say again I'll come 12 के 12 करोड़ ऑनलाइन होंगे नहीं होंगे but we as a company require not more than 1 lakh a year. That's all we require to meet our targets. So one thought is the one farmer who is not coming on internet till today, he is not our customer. First of all, he is not our set of customers. So we do not cater those segment of customer. And you said ki people, whatever demand we generated, it's all because of the awareness which we have created through our YouTube channels, or you can say Facebook or Instagram. So as I said, it sound odd to hear, but awareness creation or the new product launching is fully done online. Then they are getting awareness as we were discussing, right? YouTube is a good source of education nowadays. Similarly, for the farmers, YouTube is a good source, and data consumption is rural is more than the urban nowadays. So data says कि rural data consume कर रहा है, and when you talk about rural, it's 80% agriculture. So people are consuming the data for awareness purpose. The second part is, कि how they people are making payments online. They are We have a chatbots giving queries through WhatsApp. तो व्हाट्सएप पे क्वेरी जा रहा है, ऑनलाइन वो अवेयर हो रहा है, पेमेंट ऑनलाइन कर रहा है वो यूपीआई के थ्रू. 30% ऑफ पेमेंट आर यूपीआई पेमेंट. सो यू कैन थिंक थ्रू कि देर इज नो सच हिकअप एज फॉर नाउ कि फार्मर is not going online. It's just a myth which I need to bust. Ki farmer is going online and he see your product online first and buy offline. He might buy offline, but online presence is what you cannot deny. There's a consumer behavior. वो online देखेगा, offline खरीदेगा. Maybe offline देखेगा, online खरीदेगा. But online is what is must in agri as a sector for 100%. That is what are my take is.
Very
So people are
interesting.
going on.
Yeah, I don't think many people would actually be aware of how deep the online penetration is on the farmer side, and not just from a content, but as you're saying, from a buying point of view as well, from a payments point of view as well. So that's very interesting. At the start, you mentioned about Balwan being a bootstrapped company, right? And
Yeah.
of course, there are some trade-offs that you would have had to make. What were some of those decisions that or trade-offs that you made as a bootstrapped company, which perhaps might have been different if you had like significant external funding earlier?
देखो, in our case, it is a classic case of company where we took funding when we required it. मतलब it is a classic case. How we started as low as 1 lakh rupee. We did some trading of machineries. We took dealership. We made some money and we did a good turnover. Post that turnover, we took a loan. See, there is a business loan of 18-22% because we had the products were profitable, so we took a loan. And as also, if someone from any startup sector, if they have a product company specifically, not a tech company, tech have a different uh, life cycle and curves. But if it is a product company, what my suggestion is, go to debt first. There is a CGTMS loan up to 5 crore at 10% rate of interest, maybe 2% of a fees annually, but it's still 12%. It's cheaper than equity money. Then we have done to CGSS where we got 10 crore of a loan, up to 10 crore for CC limits, again they turn 10%. There was a time when we stuck. So we had a debt of 5 crore on our balance sheet, but we have an equity of only 1 crore. And that equity was the surplus which we have created through our profits. So that time debt to equity ratio was not favorable to give debt to this company more. And that was a classic time when we took up 1 million of funding from outside to maintain our debt to equity. Then again we raised it. And the next fundraisers happen when we are again stuck with 1 to 2 ratio. You understand it? That it is a classic case where we raised money when we exactly required it. We didn't raise any money earlier, and we have no plans to raise money till the time we do not have a concrete plan to deploy it. Otherwise, we all know how the cycle works.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately it'll lead to your dilution. It'll makes the business more inefficient. But what you're saying is a very important point also that in depending upon the business, in your case, you effectively leverage debt also, right? And then figure out, okay, because equity is ultimately a more costlier source of capital, raise as much equity only as you need to, and not sort of over dilute and uh, have more equity
Yeah,
than you can absorb in the business, basically.
correct. But equity have its own benefits as well as the ratio.
And talk about
What
that,
might
right? Like now that you're a private equity funded company,
yes,
how
yes.
how is that compared to earlier? What is it allowing you to do?
So, among many things, I'll say few things. One thing, we also had that attitude of कर लेंगे देख लेंगे हो जाएगा, right? But once the private equity come in, it's more plan, focus, month by month numbers. They are focusing that we focus on the plan which we have submitted. So that is one thing I really appreciate. When you are ready for that pressure of private equity, go for it because that gives a discipline. Otherwise, already 100 crore business, two brothers are earning more than 10 crore. It's fine. It is sufficient for anyone. But private equity being on your back, they always pushes you. They make you do not waste money experimenting more. But there is a thin line, sometimes what I feel, private equity players are not risk takers like us being a risk taker, and without risk there is no money. So there is, but we being more risky, right, with this much of capital, that need to be balanced. That balance private equity make one. Second, of course, I told they balance they make, they focus on the focus which we need to focus. So basically, they come up, they nudge us, plus they make this company, they make this business to a company, I can say. They focus on plan more. Ki, don't overachieve, don't underachieve. What you have said, achieve that. And that I really appreciate these professionals. That I really appreciate ki na overachieve karo, na under karo. What you have planned, just try to achieve that. Don't get excited when it is over. Oh, you are getting overachievement as you planned. So these are the 3 points. Fourth point, I can say hiring made a lot easier than earlier. People, a good talent, see the profile of a company. A website is not only seen by the customers; it is seen by the customers, your suppliers, your buyers is of course customers, your suppliers, your investors, plus your team members who wanted to join the company. So once you are funded with private equity, you get uh, good credentials. I can say people willing to join you. Plus, as a supplier, you get to benefit from the suppliers as well. Suppliers now credentials are also built around the suppliers, so they also give you credit. So these are the few points I can say to you. After private equity, things changes in a more professional manner. So pressure is real, of course, but it is a good pressure to have if you are ready. So that is what changes in our case.
So the pros outweigh the cons.
No, no cons as in,
Okay. Yeah.
but little, but nothing. It is good
Yeah,
only.
yeah, yeah. Of course. No, super. And you've of course at the start also stated your point of view. There's always a debate between whether bootstrapping is better or raising external funding is better, especially at the start. So you're saying if it's a first-time founder, then bootstrap it before it gets to a stage and then probably raise. Whereas if you're second, third-time founder, probably you're more sure about the plans and better off than raising external funding at the start and you can perhaps start big itself and
Yeah,
not make
that's
that
the
same
best case.
mistakes.
Yeah, that's the classic case. That's the classic case.
Interesting. And when you look at from the outside, of course, entrepreneurship is very glamorous, right? But for anyone who is an entrepreneur knows that the reality is very, very different. It's not how it appears in this podcast also. Talk to us about some of those significant challenges that you face behind the scenes as an entrepreneur, building this company thus far. You have operations across multiple cities, you have hundreds of thousands of farmers that you're reaching out to, you have multiple sources of, production where you're getting your products from. So it's a complex machinery, right? How do you operate this, and what are some of the challenges that you've encountered that people should learn from?
I agree. As you correctly said, entrepreneurship look glamorous from the front, but it take a lot of effort at the back end. And specifically when it's agri or agri-tech, whatever we call it, it is really hard working. As in, you need to spend lot and lot of time in fields, and fields are not that easy to handle. It is not that easy. So I myself, I can say, I, my brother, the whole initial team, maybe today's team also spend, we have spent more than 1,000 days in last 8 years of journey, more than 1,000 I can say in farms. Last month also I was in fields. So being on field is not that easy. Sometimes you get hotel, in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, you have all the hotels change. In rural, you have dharmshalas. It's not about you have money in your bank. It's about you have no options at rural. धर्मशाला में रुकना, फार्मर के फील्ड पे सुबह जाना, दोपहर में you cannot go, शाम को or maybe they have a lesser window, morning or evening. So I'll talk more about agri only, right? So agri is more difficult than as compared to any other industry. There is no AC in the fields. Plus, if you miss one season, if you have made a good product and you have missed one season, you need to wait for a year long to come that season to test that equipment again, or maybe test that input again. So agri is a long gestation, lot of field visits, lot of inconsistent. lot of surprises, I can say. Consistency is what we need to build. It comes with lot of surprises and no certainty. So with all that struggle and with all that struggle together, put in a right direction, create a agri-tech company. So anyone, any founder watching this, or maybe any stakeholder who is investing into agri-tech, so I can say it is a, at least do not invest the one who have not spent more than 5 years, 5 years into this sector. So 5 years is what I think it is a learning time into this sector, and it requires a lot of hard work, but it's a good part also. So wherever you feel the gestation is long, the people are less. So if you crack that gestation of 5 to 10 years and you are there into this category, there is very less chances someone will have that long cycle and will come to beat you up. So if you want to start in agri, I can say start early. Um, so that's what I think. Matlab, I think so. This is what
Very
I can say.
interesting. I think what you're saying is just the on-ground piece itself is a very significant part for someone to learn and get comfortable with being on the ground. I mean, it's not a very comfortable life in that sense. Entrepreneurship by itself is not comfortable, and the experience for how you run operations here is again the other tricky part. Tell me, as an entrepreneur, there would have been multiple difficult decisions that you would have taken. What are like one or two most difficult decisions you think about that you've had to make from a more decision-making point of view as a CEO, as a founder?
The most difficult for me, which came up to mind instantly only, you start with a team of five, six people, initial people, maybe a 10 set of people who are very close to your heart, and they are the one who started the journey, lived with you together. But after a certain period of time, you need to hire professionals. So how business is run, it is a L1 team which is your trustworthy, then L2 team which need to be professionals. So professionals coming up and taking the places of the one who are not able to learn with the speed others are learning, and putting them down, making the new ones up, that was the hardest decision ever, I can say, to me. But it is what it is. Joe grow, the one who took the learning, they are still into that position. The one who had not, they might be, whatever the reason. This is what the hardest decision
Of
I can
course.
think till date.
Oh, interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, those are the people you initially started with, and one hopes that, you all grow sort of together. And it's not like you're leaving someone behind, but it's just that the company is perhaps the most important stakeholder one has to think about when making a decision. And so there are some trade-offs that, you have to make at the choice of your personal inclination.
Preferences.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah, of course.
So that was the really the hardest trust me.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, and ultimately, these are relationships. These are people who will build emotional bonds. So, you have to sort of separate the two when you're running a company, which is not easy. Tell me from a technology point of view, right? And this is broadly, I'm talking about agri-tech right now. What is that one trend which is happening in agri-tech that you are most excited about? Even if it might be in the early stages, but could be relevant for Balwan or broadly in the agri-tech space that you think one should watch out for?
Yeah, we all seen a data-driven decisions. That is a very common word which we listen. We need to make data-driven decisions. Now we have all the historical data of sales and everything. But in the case of farmer, it is still perception. So if the devices, I can say IoT or devices or technology which can give them a backing of data, which is really, really important. Even we as a company making our machines IoT enabled, so that it can precisely, it is a 3 to 4 year project, but it can precisely tell farmers कितने घंटे आपकी मशीन चली है, कितना उसका इम्पैक्ट आया है, कितना डीजल या पेट्रोल उसने लिया है, how much land you have cultivated, what is the timing. So this data, rather than a perception, if accurately given to the farmer, and if someone develop the technology, we are doing it for our case. There are multiple things like weather, wind, X, Y, Z, M, what not. Farmer requires a multiple of data. किसी area में irrigation ज़्यादा है, किसी में कम है because the land is little tilted. So that sort of data which is required, to make, to give a better yield. So that is what it is most important, I think. It is a IoT enablement, I can say, matlab, making machines smarter, give farmers more and more accurate data. That will create a change in yield or farmer profit, I can say.
I mean, when you think of it, the point that you're saying, for any business owner, they need data to make business decisions. For a farmer, I
Yes.
mean, his farm is also his source of income. You call it business or whatever, right? He also needs data. But unfortunate truth is today he doesn't have data, which is why I think there was a recent initiative. I think the government is also launching where they want to provide weather data on feature phones so that farmers can plan, different activities accordingly, right? Like you're talking about IoT devices, how that provides more intelligence. So I think you can make our farming a lot more scientific. And I've spent some time, thanks to you and some other entrepreneurs in agriculture. And I believe this is one of those industries which is actually can be really, really profitable. It is unfortunate that our farmers today don't have as much profits as they should have. And part of it is that probably the process itself is not being done very scientifically. And so if people like you can actually help them do it, I think it could significantly evolve how the ecosystem is today.
Likely, farmer are little reluctant to change. It's like I am teaching you private equity, right? The farmer thinks that way. कि मैं 100 सालों से खेती करता हूँ, how can you tell us what to do, what to not? So that a little reluctancy, but it is changing. Little education, data which we can provide, and it will give them a better yields. That is for sure.
I mean, ultimately, see, one has to solve for the risk, right? Like when I think of it from their perspective, one of the hesitations is also like, you don't want to go any lower, right? So like, अरे इतना तो हो रहा है. And what if I disturb it and probably it goes bad because they don't have the safety net in that sense that people like you and me will have, right? So part of the resistance could also be related to that. And part is any one of us are always, change is never comfortable. So I think this is one of those
That is
areas where
one
there's a lot of
thought,
push
but
required, huh?
that is one thought, but in systematic farming, it is also a procedure where you do not cultivate whole land with new change. अगर किसी का 5 हेक्टेयर पीस ऑफ लैंड है तो वो जितने भी एक्सपेरिमेंट करने हैं वो हाफ हेक्टेयर में करेगा. एंड इफ इट टर्न्स वेल, वो हेजिंग करना जानते हैं अपने से बेटर. मतलब if it turns well, then they make it to 2 hectare, then they make it to 3 hectare. So that is how, in a systematic way of farming, this is also procedure how to switch, because you are not sure which seed or which machine will work on which soil. So you need to, you know, step by step. But still, that the adoption is lesser. Matlab, people
Hmm,
are
hmm.
still reluctant to adopt these as a technologies.
Yeah. I'm hoping, I think, as more and more content that they're consuming, people like you are putting out more content, government is supporting, some of those eventually will help us move in that direction because I don't think so we can afford not to move in that direction, right? As a country, as an ecosystem, I think they will have to move in that direction ultimately.
And they are moving it, but
Huh.
just that we need to be the catalyst to speed up this process.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah. This is obviously a sector which agree that entrepreneurs now are increasingly thinking about, right? So
Correct.
if there is a young entrepreneur who is right now thinking about what do I build in agri, would you suggest to them? What are some of one or two untapped areas that they should go after?
Uh, every crop is full of problems. Every area is full of problems. Just go in a farm, have a year, stay there for 6 months at least for one crop cycle, and choose one crop. There you need to be, very little clever to choose a crop which had a better yields or bada काम है. Choose one crop, solve problem of that crop. It might be around farming, machines, seeds, inputs, outputs, post harvest, go to the market. But think through that crop. एक crop पे एक problem पकड़ के we can work, and there are multiple crops, multiple problems. So I agree with is full of problems. So one problem we have solved. That is small, छोटे किसान को छोटा machine which he can afford. There are multiple such. So there is no, it's not coming to top of my head, but if someone goes and see कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है एक एक खेत में, तो दे
No,
विल
this is a
फाइंड
very
आउट द
good
पेन
framework,
पॉइंट.
I think, that you've given because each of those crops by itself is a large enough market. And so even if you take one and solve for one, I mean, then of course you can build lots of adjacencies, but that by itself can be quite meaningful. And I want to finally end with one, thing that you are working on, or what is that one moonshot idea that, you dream of that Balwan, that in the long run, that's where you would want to launch.
For me, it's IoT. मतलब it will change things. It how it will change thing in our space in mechanization. There is a renting happening in farm mechanization. It's a There is renting always happening. ट्रैक्टर खरीद के ट्रैक्टर रेंट पे देते हैं, मशीन खरीद के मशीन रेंट पे देते हैं. But it didn't work very well because it looks like a Uberization of tractors, and many startups have raised money around saying that single sentence of Uberization, but they miss a simple context. Uber have a random buyer and a random seller always. In farm mechanization, it's a single center and the same set of buyer. So why a same set of buyer and the same set of seller will give commission to the parent company. So that is where the Uberization model of tractor failed in total, the principle. But that doesn't mean it does not have opportunity. It have opportunity, but we do not want to encash with the commission model. What we want to make our machines IoT enabled, give farmer or the user or the owner a perfect data how much, how much month or how much hours it is running in our rent, and you can precisely charge, and we can charge something around our technology, maybe subscription or maybe what. So that is how IoT can create an impact with data given to the farmers. So that is what we think. It's a long shot and create a regular revenue to us, monthly subscription, and we know how it can benefit to a company. So that is what we think as a technology. It's IoT in farm machines or in farms.
Interesting. I mean, part comparison. I don't know if it's totally correct, but it's almost what Rapido is doing in the cab hailing space, where they are sort of offering their platform as a subscription and not necessarily based on commissions, from the rides, right? And which is, I think, part of what the Goa proposed cab model is going to also be around, where they'll probably not be allowed to charge commissions, but it's more going to be around subscription, and which is where perhaps Rapido might be better off than Uber and Ola. We'll see how that plays out. But when you were saying that, that was one comparison that was coming to my mind on how your approach is different, compared to Uber, and why it is more relevant, in your scheme of things. Super. Of course, we can go on and on, but we'll close it here. Thank you, Rohit, for your time. I've really, of course, enjoyed our conversations always, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Sarvesh. Thank you so much.
Super.